Hello and welcome into the newest episode of Pat's Latest. I'm your host, Mike Gambardella, and we have plenty of NFL news coming out of the Combine. More coming up on Rob Gronkowski and the latest rumors surrounding him, the NFL draft prospects that could fit for the Patriots, and what the NFL pundits are saying about this class overall. Before we get started, make sure to go on and subscribe for our channel, set up notifications, get into our comments, and let us know who you think the Patriots should be after this off season, and go back and check out our older videos as well. We start today looking at what Mike Vrabel had to say at the podium at the NFL Combine in Indianapolis. The NFL coaches, scouts, and media pundits as well, all flocking to Lucas Oil Stadium, as many NFL draft hopefuls will start taking their paces, many going through the physical drills, some opting out, and at least meeting with teams and figuring out where these players are going to slot. The big pieces that we want to focus on here is what Mike Vrabel had to say, as these are really his first public comments since his introductory press conference with the Patriots. And the top one actually came in just before he took the stage, as he went out and said that the goal is to take care of the Patriots' need in free agency in order for the teams to have more freedom in the NFL draft. Now, this is probably the best thing that Patriots fans can hope for, is that the Patriots can really redefine what this roster is currently constructed as. And Vrabel went so far as to say this is going to look completely different than it does right now, which is a great thing because there are a lot of holes for this roster and places that new players can fit in, and how the Patriots can really take advantage of that cap space that they do have. Vrabel went on to say that we want to add enough players in free agency. He say, here's the roster and can line up and play tomorrow. Then this allows them to let the draft come to us. This is how every NFL team, front office, and head coach hopes to be set up going into the NFL draft, but we know this never does happen. There are going to inevitably be a hole or two that the Patriots will need to address in the NFL draft. Some of the more likely scenarios are that offensive tackle spot, wide receiver is another, and cornerback could be another as well for the Patriots. Now, that's not to say that you couldn't fill those holes in free agency, and I'm sure that Elliott Wolf and Mike Vrabel will be doing as much as they can to make sure that they are in that position that Vrabel wants to see them in. But come this time in April, we know that things are going to look very different. And again, we still will be saying, what's that top spot for the Patriots and where's that hole to be filled? Additionally, some other comments from Mike Vrabel. He actually had the backing of Ramondre Stevenson after his very difficult year, and essentially put some of that blame, even the fumbling issues, on the offensive line. Went so far as to say, Ramondre knows he has a job to do and he's got to, essentially have ball security. But because the line did not do its job, there were a lot of those secondary blocks, the backside, guys who were able to shed off and then have that secondary hit on Ramondre Stevenson, which led to some of those fumbling issues. So what this means is that Vrabel already taking the side of a running back that they paid a good amount of money to last offseason, and expect to see Ramondre Stevenson leading the charge out of the backfield. That's not to say that the Patriots will not end up drafting someone or adding someone in free agency, but at least for right now, the Patriots head coach is behind the guy that makes the most money in the New England backfield. Additionally, he touched on that second-year draft class now for the Patriots, that 2024 NFL draft class that outside of Drake May has a lot left to be desired. He talked about, potentially you have a sophomore slump. He's looking to get away from that and say, hey, we had our quote-unquote freshman 15, but let's move on from it right now. Players are going to have a fresh start under Mike Vrabel. They're going to have to learn a new system under Josh McDaniels and Terrell Williams, but they will have the opportunity to acquit themselves fairly quickly and make a strong impression on Vrabel. There's not going to be holdovers or anything against it. If you come out on the field and perform, they'll have a chance to succeed in year two. Speaking of Williams as the new defensive coordinator, Mike Vrabel confirmed that he will call plays on the defensive side of the ball. And additionally, Williams actually got a shout out from head coach Dan Campbell from the Lions during his press conference as well, calling Williams the easily best defensive line coach in the league, and now gets a chance to prove himself as a defensive coordinator as well. So a lot coming from the combine, and we'll sure to keep that up to date for you throughout the rest of the week's episode here on Pat's Latest. Let's also go over to what everyone seems to be talking about, and that is the top offensive line prospect in this NFL draft, and that's LSU offensive tackle or offensive guard, if you talk to some, Will Campbell. Now, the reason that that position is up for question or debate is a question of arm length, and people are very interested to see what will happen during today's measurements and what Will Campbell actually checks in as. There are several different ways to look at this. Again, he's not going to tip the charts and be Joe Alt, this monster of a player out of Notre Dame who ended up with the Chargers last year in the top 10. But Will Campbell is a very good offensive lineman. Top NFL brass has called and officially invited Campbell to the NFL draft in Green Bay in this coming April. And that speaks volumes because the NFL is planning on being very selective this year. They are only going to have probably 8 to 10 players as opposed to a green room filled and having, 20 to 30 players where you inevitably have those eyes on awkward moments, the quarterback slips. The NFL seemingly moving away from that and really wanting to have those 8 to 10 guys they know will be selected in the first round. Will Campbell will be one of those guys. The Patriots could be the first team to actually consider selecting him at number 4, but don't be surprised to see him much later or get past number 10 or 15 at this point. The questions then become, how much does arm length factor into this? Mike Vrabel's comments seem to echo that it doesn't matter, and if you can play, you can play. Dante Scarnecchia, the longtime offensive line coach for the Patriots, pretty much said the same thing, where it's you can do it or you can't, and it's not a question of what the sizing is. There is a technique issue. If you have longer arms, you're able to reach out and have that contact point be earlier than someone with shorter arms, but we can't say that without technique you wouldn't be able to do the same thing. We've seen it for a myriad of different players, and you could line up some of the same arm lengths of the free agent guys that are being discussed with Will Campbell's as well. This kind of comes down to an optics thing here too, of are you going to select an offensive tackle? It's not the sexy position. It's not a wide receiver. It's not a skill position. It's not even an edge or a defender that's going to potentially turn the ball over and get it back for your offense. So yes, there is a chance that this is kind of the less cool thing to do, but moving forward with Will Campbell could be the best thing for this football team, as Mike Vrabel did preach how they can both protect Drake May and amplify the things that he does well. And the way to amplify that is to give him a clean pocket and allow him to do the things that makes him really great. Another odd one coming out from yesterday's news cycle was Rob Gronkowski, and talking about, is he really retired? We know that Gronk keeps himself in fantastic shape, and in an earlier episode here at Pat's Latest, we talked about both Joe Burrow and Josh Allen previously making pitches to have him come out of retirement, and actually once he left the Patriots, come to their teams before he decided to go to the Buccaneers and play with Tom Brady, winning another Super Bowl. Gronk is back in it again because a radio host from 104 in Denver talked about him actually being an option for the Denver Broncos and getting that team over the hump here in the AFC as well. Again, a big grain of salt with this one. However, Gronk is linked to Sean Payton, having worked with him on the Fox broadcast as well. So there is a relationship there. The Broncos are a team that has made great strides quickly, and they are said to be looking for a number one receiving option as well. Cortland Sutton there, but the tight end position kind of lacking for them could be an option. They've also talked about or been linked to having T. Higgins as an option or potentially Devontae Adams. Again, I think you can pass by this one. I don't expect Gronk to be coming out of retirement anytime soon. And if he did, it would probably be more for a stretch run, playoff run, as opposed to signing up for another full season. But as long as Gronk stays in phenomenal shape, I think he probably would slot in as a top 10 tight end right now, but don't expect him to see him on the gridiron anytime soon. We'll wrap up today looking at the NFL draft class as a whole and kind of how this matches up. Now, there's two ways to look at this. There isn't that dynamic playmakers at the top of this draft. We talked about the two blue chip prospects, the difference makers in Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter, and we still see paths forward, especially if Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders pick up speed, to be drafted in the top 3 picks and allowing one of those players to slide to the Patriots. But those really are the two. Everybody else has questions, whether that's arm length, motor, size, etc., injury history. There's questions around these top picks. It's not an absolute, oh my God, we got this guy. So because of that, this is kind of being said as at least from Matt Miller, a meat and potatoes draft. You're able to fill the needs that you have for your team, but you're not picking up that superstar card right off the top. There's a draft class that could actually end up having more depth this year, that you could get someone in round 4 or 5 that could have the same amount of impact as the guy that you get in the 2nd or 3rd round. This is great news for the Patriots because they do have a lot of holes to fill. And while Mike Vrabel wants to be able to fill those through free agency, the fact that you'll be now able to double down and cover yourselves in the event of injury or a guy not working out as you would hope or taking to a new scheme or fit, you're able to get that roster up to speed faster. Again, Washington Commanders set the path forward for the Patriots to follow this year with a new head coach, a dynamic quarterback, young at the helm, who's able to use his legs here as well. If they can fill the spots around him, specifically the offensive line, specifically the pass catchers, and filling in that defense with some impact players, we could be talking about the Patriots pushing for the playoffs in 2025. That'll do us for us here at Pat's Latest. Get into our comments and let us know again what you want to see the Patriots focus in on during the NFL Combine this week. And be sure to check out our other episodes. Fight on, Foxborough.